Hey everyone, happy Friday. Let me find OBS. Here we go. Trust webcam. There we go. And admit everybody. All. Yeah, if you're just on YouTube and you want to join Zoom and ask questions live, the links in the chat there or over my head.
Hello.
As with most things, are over my head. Hey, is this Scotty, Ray?
Hey, Scotty. Hey, Ray.
And then let's see here. Go back to live. And Lasha's in the chat.
Hello, Mr. Automator. Hello, Isis. Hello, Scotty.
Hi.
Hi. Happy Friday.
Hello, Herbert.
Is it just me, or is it hard to believe like it's the end of September, almost the end of September already? Like time just flies.
It's really great in the live stream in that 10 minutes. You've got that music jamming leading up to the and your keys clicking away on the keyboard.
It's like I'm working here.
Yeah. I was, one thing and I mentioned this a lot in the newsletter is, you can control your attitude, right? Like you can. Sometimes it's hard, but you can choose how to respond to situations or whatever, and you can convince yourself you're in a good mood and that you feel great, right? And one of the ways that I do it is I'll pump some rock, fast-paced music, whatever. It doesn't really have to be rock, but lately I've been playing more rock. But in the mornings, and it really gets me going, and I'm like, I tell my son, and he's since he's been like 4.5, 5, he's worked for me on rentals, and he will start off moving very slow, and I'm like, just start moving faster, and then like suddenly you move faster, right? But the problem is it's the cart or the horse, right? You have to often be the one that actually, starts it,
Absolutely.
right? It's like dieting too. You can't just not be into it and like hope I'll lose weight. Then if I lose weight, then I'll start dieting. No, it doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah, on the music thing, there's basically two kinds of people who listen to music because of the mood they're in, and people who listen to music to set the mood they want to be in.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Actually, it's true. I don't know. I think I'm the kind of person who listens to music because of the mood I'm in, because music doesn't usually change my mood. It's weird. So for example, if I'm just working and somebody puts a happy music right next to me, like I'm not going to be just happy now, like, oh, come on.
As a matter of fact, it can have a bitter opposite effect.
Yeah, it's like, come on, I'm trying to concentrate here.
I don't know. There's got to be that one song. Everybody's got that one song that just gets them pumped up, that Eye of the Tiger kind of song.
I'll tell you also, and I've never understood why for me, but and Isaiah says, we've worked a lot together now. I don't think he's ever seen me mad, right? I'll get frustrated and annoyed. Yeah. I almost never get mad. It's very, very rare. It's like once a year I might get mad, if that. But when I do get mad, I get to such a point that then I put on some really hard rock, and I don't know why, but I start laughing. Like it works every time. I don't have a clue why.
So you know how you use the word frustrated. Sometimes you get frustrated. I would imagine sometimes you get frustrated while you're coding.
Dude, all the time.
What a lot of people don't realize is that feeling of frustration that you get when you're learning something, that's literally the feeling of new connections being made in your brain.
Right.
That's what it feels like.
No, it's a very important thing to stress is that we all go through that. And here's even a more important thing. If you're not going through that, you're not learning. You're not pushing yourself, right? Like it's a part of life's weird quirks. In order to grow, we gotta be feeling uncomfortable, right? Feeling that anxiety kind of stuff.
Yesterday we were actually dealing with something with one of our clients that it was totally outside of my expertise. Like I have never coded in PHP. We were actually even sending on the group, hey, does anybody code in PHP? Because I had no clue what we were doing, right? And after somebody joined and they were trying to guide us on what to do, like my head was spinning. It was really hard. But in the end, like I learned something. Now I know how to connect to a database in PHP. I don't know if I'm going to use that at any other point or whatever, but now I know.
So
exactly.
And I bet you slept really well last night too.
Maybe. Yeah, but it is a good thing. And in general, in AutoHotkey, for example, this happens to a lot of people. They start with AutoHotkey, they see the first tutorial, which is just creating one or two hotkeys. That's fine. Then when they start getting into something more difficult, then they just stop there because it's hard or whatever. And then they stop learning, which then leads them to just do these basic things over and over again, which is okay, because if that's what you needed, that's okay. But if you don't want to rely on other people having to tell you what to do, then you can just learn how to do them yourself. But that's going to be a hard process. It's not going to be that easy.
Regarding your point about adjusting our attitude, I just suffered a ransomware attack. He got some of my files last week. I'm struggling to regard him as a kind teacher, teaching me the holes in my security, teaching me how to improve my security. I'm like 60% there, but 40% I'm like, this guy's just an unpleasant person.
Yeah, that can happen too.
Well, and don't miss the lesson of multiple backups also.
Oh yeah, you would need that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
No,
I think we all learned that the hard way at some point.
yeah, that's actually one of the biggest issues that one of the easiest to correct. Okay, but it is true what Ray said. It also depends on the person who is teaching you. If you have a person who is unpleasant, not only the process is hard because you're going to have some frustration learning, but now you have the added issue of the person being unpleasant. You're not going to want to do it. So finding a good mentor and finding somebody who might guide you without being judgmental or having a short temper will help you so much.
Yeah, right? And it's easy to find people who are really good at something. It's really difficult to find somebody who's really good at something and really good at teaching.
Yeah,
I thought you were saying not a dick, but that's what
that's true. Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. It's true that there's some people have said that I have a way of explaining things that is clear, but that's not the issue. Even if I explain it however I can, like the best way of, if you don't have a mindset of, or if I don't explain it in a way that you can understand, like you're not going to get it. And it's not my fault and it's not your fault. It's just that the way how I'm teaching is not your style. And that's the reason why you have to find a mentor that works for you or somebody who teaches the way that you can learn. Because if not, it's not going to work out no matter how much you try,
A lot of times teachers suffer from unconscious competence. They don't understand how much they know.
Yeah.
And because of that, they assume their student knows more than they do.
Actually, yeah.
And it makes it difficult for students to
catch
learn.
Yeah. I think that's something that I struggle a lot, because a lot of things I see them like, so it's just so simple. You just do this and that, and the other person is like, I didn't get that, and I'm like, but it's simple, like it's so easy, but it's not.
Like, but this is one of the easy ones.
Yeah. So I think that is something that if a person wants to be an educator and wants to try to teach other people, they have to be really aware of that. Of it's not as simple as you think. Always, like for you is easy, but for other people might not be that simple.
I think the quote's attributed to Einstein, but I don't know if he's actually who said it. But if you can't explain it where a kindergartner can understand it, then you don't understand it.
Right, it's true. That is something.
That's like Reddit. They have a section, explain it to me like I'm five.
Yeah. Exactly. No, but at this point, like, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, does anyone have, I mean, I'm happy just to chat, but
yeah. I was just going to do the same. I was just going to say, like, at this point, let's go ahead and see if anybody has questions. Yeah.
These are important things to discuss, right, though?
Right.
It's one of the things that, like, people didn't want to join the hero group because they thought it was all advanced people. I'm like, it's not, and it's one of my most important things that everyone understands is we're all at different levels. We've all learned differently. We're, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? We're there to help each other, and, it's the other
Well-
thing is really important to distinguish between intelligence and knowledge, right? And you can be as smart in the world but still not know a lick about something, right? And you can be very, very knowledgeable, but that doesn't mean you're smart. That's what I say. I'm good at I'm pretty smart at, I can be putting something and understand it, but I don't know a lot of shit like with AutoHotkey and programming and other stuff. Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
they're working on. Need help with?
keeping with the theme of simple, I've got a really simple beginner's question.
That's okay.
So AutoKey runs in the background and it watches for files with the extension AHK. How does it work? How
No, it doesn't
So
run. In
let me explain it this way. Let me explain it like you're 5. I'm kidding. This is the way I think about it, right? When because we're more used to things like Word or Excel, right? And with Word or Excel, there's an executable program, but then you have files that work with that, right? It's the same thing with AutoHotkey. The AutoHotkey executable on itself doesn't do anything. It just, and it wouldn't just stay running if you launch it. It wouldn't do anything. You need to have a file that does something. Does that help?
to add on to what he just said, let me kind of, because I think there was one little part missing on his explanation, is that when you install a program, usually those programs tell Windows which files would be launched with it. So there is a section in something called the registry, in which we tell Windows, okay, whenever you see an AutoHotkey file and you double click on that, you're going to look for this executable and run it with it. So the operating system already has been told how it's going to be run. So AutoHotkey is not always in the background waiting for it. It's just that when you double click on an AHK file, the operating system knows, oh, you double click on an AHK file, I have to look for this other executable to open it. So that's basically what is going on.
And so AutoHotkey stays running, and it watches everything I type.
No, it doesn't.
No. Again, AutoHotkey is not running at all. So
I see it when I run.
Yeah. So
think of it like this: if you had a movie file, if you had a movie file on your computer, the movie player is not running all the time, but when you click on that file, the movie player starts running.
Right.
But
AHK
here,
is
look
the same way.
Let me share my screen here.
Yeah, sure.
Right here. Here is a process running. Isn't that? I mean, that's AutoHotkey running.
It is. So
it's watching, right?
Well,
No.
So let's just go ahead and do this.
See what I mean? Simple, right?
So let's go ahead and do this. Can you go ahead and look for the script that you run? Not on the task manager, but on the bottom where
if
you
it goes to properties, doesn't it? I think it shows you.
Yeah, but let me show him something. Now, if you go, so let me see, where your script is running here at the bottom, you should have kind of like an icon running. Is it there?
Well, yeah.
Where's the icon for that? Where's the icon for that process? Like,
I got a stop.
Can you close the script? Is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Oh, I can close the script. Okay.
I want you to close the script and then take a look at the task manager.
It's gone.
Of course. So this is the point. While the script is running, the AutoHotkey process is running, and of course, is watching for those hotkeys that you set up. It's not anything you type. It's not everything you type. It's just the hotkeys that you set up on your script, nothing else. So if you set your script to watch for Control H, it will watch for Control H, but it will not watch if you press, if you start typing. That's not what it's going to do.
But my script is just a text file.
Right. So here's the thing. Can you, let me share my screen real quick so you could, So this is what I'm trying to kind of like explain. Of course, this file is just a text script, right? Does that make sense, right?
Yeah.
It is a text script. But when you double click it, the operating system says, oh, you double clicked an AHK file. That means that I should launch AutoHotkey.exe with that file. And AutoHotkey reads the file and does whatever you told it to do. And it's going to stay there running until the script finishes. Okay?
No, okay. So when I type PRM,
So
it
when
must
you
be watching everything that I'm typing so that it
no,
can
not
catch that.
everything.
It's
So not everything, but that specific thing. So if I tell my script, so let's say I have a hot string that says test. This is doing something very special in the operating system. It's registering something called hot string. Well, we are telling it, we call it hot string in AutoHotkey, but it's doing a registration in the operating system. So the operating system is watching for that, not AutoHotkey. And when the operating system sees that, it tells AutoHotkey, hey, I just found out this, and AutoHotkey says, oh, if that happened, then convert it into this is my test.
So what AutoHotkey says is, oh, I got to look in Ray's AutoHotkey script text file that he wrote. He said, whenever do period RM expanded into Ray Marischuk.
And we tell that to the operating system, not AutoHotkey, but the operating system. Right.
But I'd still say, again, just think about it like with the Word document, right? The document itself has specific things in it, right? But Word itself on its own doesn't do anything, right? Like the power is really in the file to tell it what to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't help me at all because,
let me try it this other way.
Okay.
Check this out. AutoHotkey is what is called an interpreter. Okay. An interpreter grabs lines of text, interprets them into something that the operating system can understand. Does that make sense?
Grabs lines of text from the AutoHotkey text file that I write.
Right. And it converts it into something that the operating system can understand. That's all it does. It just grabs the text, converts it into something that the operating system can understand. What that means is AutoHotkey is not listening to your keystrokes. No. When I told it, listen to test or as a hot string, is just telling the operating system, hey, whenever you see this text, do something. So it told the operating system. What is watching your keystrokes is your operating system. That is always like that.
So the operating system sees my text shortcut period RM,
right?
And it says, "Oh yeah, I know
what that is."
Run the interpreter, the AutoHotkey interpreter. Then the AutoHotkey interpreter goes to my text file and interprets the period RM and expands it.
Exactly. That's a better way of thinking about it. So AutoHotkey, and this is the point, AutoHotkey itself is not doing a lot of things. Actually, you can tell because AutoHotkey is a very small program. It's just like 300 kilobytes. It's not a big program. Most of the things that are happening are done by the operating system. Now, what is bad is if the script that you're running is doing bad stuff. So the script, whatever the commands in the script are there, that's what would tell you if it is a bad script or not. We actually even created a script scanner just to take a look at those kind of things and warn you if the script that you're about to run is trying to access certain things that we consider a little bit dangerous, right? But in general, it's not about AutoHotkey. about what the script does, whatever commands are in the script. Okay, so
Okay, progress has been made. One other question. Now, now, what if let me try this. What if I cause a file to print something and say to print to the screen? And in the course of printing to the screen, it prints a shortcut that I've put in my text file, in my AutoHotkey text file. Will the operating system see that shortcut and run it?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. So not exactly by printing, because when you print text, nothing happens. But that, what you're mentioning, is something that can happen. Let me share my screen real quick and show you an example of what you're explaining. So let me just bring this up again. And if I have a hotkey, let's say my hotkey is Control Z, and I use the send command to send some text, right? And in my text, this is my text. I also have Control Z there. What might happen is that this command is going to send the text and also is going to send Control Z, which actually is going to trigger it again.
So you'll get a loop.
So you might get kind of like, there are ways of actually, there are some things that AutoHotkey does to prevent this from going out of, it would actually warn you about it. It would do some things. But again, what might happen is if you're telling AutoHotkey to send keystrokes and one of the keystrokes is a hotkey, it might trigger itself. So you have to be wary of that. Printing, not really. If I put this as a message box, yeah, no, not really, because this is just text. So this is not supposedly a key press on your keyboard. It's just text. But in the send command, that is not just simply text. That is actually you're sending a Control C to the keyboard. So you have to be aware of those kind of things.
Okay, that helps a little bit, and I will think about that a little more.
No problem. There you go.
Thank you.
Glad to be of help.
And then Pedro was asking about using Python and AutoHotkey. I gave him a link to the forum to something I did years ago, where I created hotkeys from AutoHotkey and used them to trigger Python code, and then I used Python within AutoHotkey. But I was thinking is this, I don't know if it's something you can at least talk to. Your example of the COM object, to how to create one and then connect to it with other languages. Not that we did an example on that, but.
Well, the thing is that it is limited. So for example, there is a script object in Windows. It's called a scripting object, but that one allows you to run Visual Basic stuff. I don't know if there is a COM object for Python. And it's not that you can pass any script. That particular COM object actually just executes JS, I think JavaScript, well, not JavaScript, is the JavaScript version of Microsoft, all that, or Visual Basic. But what you can do, for example, in Python, you could load AutoHotkey.dll. There's a DLL file out there, I think with AutoHotkey that gives you access as a DLL file, so that in other languages, you load the DLL, and then you can execute AutoHotkey commands inside of Python. The other way around, I'm not really sure how that would work. You would have to install Python in the computer first, and your AutoHotkey script could launch a Python script. That could happen. So there are different ways that you can do that.
Yeah, it looks like I was using the DLL when I was
right. I would assume that that's what you were doing. Yeah.
I did it in 2014, so it's been a while.
It has been a little bit of time since there. Yeah. Who else has questions for today? Guy is just
before
laughing.
Guy jumps in.
He's just laughing in there. He's just like, yeah, I have tons of questions.
So I've got a question. My grandmother is extremely computer illiterate, and I was wondering, she has a certain folder on her computer that she needs to back up regularly. and scheduling backup through Windows is not working because she's actually working on a Windows XP computer and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like when I say illiterate, I'm not playing. She didn't understand when I told her to right click something. Okay, that's the level we're dealing with. So I'm wondering, can I write a script in AutoHotkey that she could just double click and it would go get the right folder and then copy it to a backup drive and do all that for her so that all she's got to do is click on it twice and then abracadabra, it does everything else.
Well, I would even argue just have it running all the time. And what I did years and years ago was I wrote one that would check the file stamps and only copy it if it was a new, version, if it's been updated. So it was much more elegant than just copying everything, right? It's not and there's probably examples of them on the forum when you think.
Now the next question is, what version of AutoHotkey would I have to use to make it run on Windows XP?
The version one, any version would work. The version one is okay. It's okay. No, but in general, as Joe said, just you can use. I could point you in the direction of using a set timer, for example, every 1 hour. Or I would definitely myself just check on the timestamp. I check on A now, which tells me what time it is, and every day at 1 p.m. or 2 a.m., whatever time you want.
Well, as long as the computer's going to be on.
Right. So just a time that I know that the computer is on. Every day at that time, it would just go ahead and launch a specific function that checks for the size of the files in there. Just check for the files. If they have changed, then go ahead and copy. And the command for that is file move, or is that the one that we use? I think, let me double check.
It's alongside.
Yeah, but I think it's file move. File move, file move and file move there. There's two commands, file move and file move there, that would either move the directory completely or specific files if you want.
Which the other thing, actually, I would also ask, just out of curiosity, because I don't know.
Oh, sorry, file copy.
Is there like a Dropbox or any of those services that would allow you to automatically? No, they don't run on XP.
Well, no, they may run on XP, but she absolutely refuses to connect this computer to the internet because it runs her business, and she's just terrified of viruses.
But she's running with running XP, then good reason, right? Because you don't want to connect to the internet, honestly.
And the thing is, XP is the program. She runs a sign business, and the program she uses to operate her 30-year-old plotter won't run on anything newer than XP.
Oh my God!
When you run it, when it's in XP,
I've tried it with a virtual box. Somebody might be able to get it to work, but I could not get the it's called hash system, which basically makes it to where you can't hack the program and use it without authorization. I could not get that to forward through the ports and function properly. Somebody might be able to get it done, but it was not me.
Okay. Now, let me clarify something that I mentioned. You do have file move and file copy. Same with file copy dir and file move dir. Now, if you move the stuff, you're going to lose the original and put it in a different location, which is not what you want. You might want to use file copy. And all of them work the same way, and you can either overwrite or create a new folder, which in my experience is better just to move the directory into a new directory that is file. It has a date stamp on it so that okay, this day I just did a new backup or whatever. So again, this is the way to go. And with a timer, checking A now for checking the time, that is something that I would go with that, and that should fix. That should give you an automatic backup application in a few lines. That should not take you that much coding.
I knew there had to be a way to do it. I just said I was probably missing that set timer piece. That's better to do it in an automatic fashion than to have her having to worry about anything.
Yeah, no worries.
Can you use AutoHot? Can you? I'm not sure the language. Can you do something in AutoHotkey so that it'll run? It'll do something every hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to get just, that's good enough. And
No, hold
I
on.
could
hold on,
show
Mike.
you a
This is
little,
a really simple one to show, just as a
right.
quick.
And actually
It's a
it would
good
help.
question.
It would help many other people. So
Right.
what happens is you do have a command called set timer. And this allows you to set a timer every certain specific, as the name implies, time. And let me just show the, so you would set a timer. You could put either a label or a function. And here you would tell the timing. The period tells how often you want it to run. This is where people get a little bit confused because the timer is set in milliseconds. So you would have to make some conversions to whatever you want. So let's go ahead and do that. So set timer, my label is going to be message box. Show message. I'm just going to do that. And the timer is, for example, if I wanted every 30 seconds, I would have to put 30, and each second is 1,000 milliseconds. So I would have to do 30,000. Okay. What I usually do is that I have some variables that I make the conversion. So I say second equals to 1,000 milliseconds. A minute is about second times, 60. So I know 60 seconds would be a minute. So that's easy. And then an hour would be minute times 60. So now I could use these variables for me to just say 2 times hour. And that means every 2 hours, for example. This is something that I would suggest everybody doing. It's just having a basic thing to make your code a little bit readable. In any case, you could just do the conversion directly or whatever. And that would run a message box every 2 hours. In my case, let's do every 30 seconds, 30 times second. You see this? Return there. Now let's have my show message. Again, it could be a function or it could be a label, whatever you want, doesn't matter. And I will just message box, this is my timer. So if everything goes right, which I assume it would, I run my script. No, it's not. So let me see. Right. Okay. Because I have to force an expression here. I hate that. But here, every 30 seconds, so I'm just going to leave it running. It should at 30 seconds show a message box. And after I click OK, 30 seconds from there, it should go ahead and do it as well. Now, again, this is the reason why I have been switching from version 1 to version 2 is because sometimes you have to force an expression, sometimes you don't have to, and that usually, this is my timer here, it just show up by itself. I didn't do anything, so it just shows up. If I hit OK, 30 seconds from now, that same message is going to pop up. But this is the thing. So notice that if I go to the period, it says it has to be an approximate number of milliseconds, and the period must be an integer unless a variable or expression is used. So now this particular parameter, which is a number, notice that the timer just went off again. So if you put a number, it behaves one way. If you put an expression, it behaves another way. So now, every single time I'm dealing with AutoHotkey version 1, I have to be asking myself, do I have to force an expression, or do I put a number, or do I? So that's the reason why I have been moving away from it, because I don't have to deal with that anymore. But in this case, notice that every 30 seconds with me doing nothing, this message box appears, and I could just switch this to every 2 hours. So this is a quick way for you to create a timer every certain time. And then again, this is what you just have to learn this section here about the timing. Usually what you do is that you put a number like 250. That tells the script every 250 milliseconds, it would perform an action. That's a quarter of a second. Okay. So 500 would be half a second. Okay. So after you get used to the numbering system here, you know that 1,000 is a second. Then, 10,000 is 10 seconds. You get that used. But if you want to be a little bit more explicit, you could use variables like I did, and that would do the conversion for you But remember that then you have to force an expression to use those variables. It's just a little bit annoying for me.
Can I add something in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I find that sometimes when I need to run something only once, so in 5 minutes time, run this only once, putting a minus in front of it, make sure it only runs once.
That is totally right. So 500 says every 500 milliseconds, it just does it over and over again. Now, if you put a minus in front of it, minus 500, it's going to wait 500 milliseconds, it's going to run it, but it's not going to run again. So it's just kind of like run a one-time thing after a certain amount of time.
Okay, thank you. That was very edifying. A couple of follow-up questions.
Yeah, sure.
I'm understanding that the 3 lines that you typed, second, minute, and hour, yeah, those, that was enough to, is it declare a variable? That was enough? That okay. Now, then I got lost about where you said force a variable and you used the percentage sign.
Right. So this is, yeah. So what happens is
percentage sign is the magic?
Yes. So what happens is, let me explain for those who haven't worked with AutoHotkey up to this point, like that has to do with this. So let me give you a quick example. I'm just going to go ahead and say a message box 5 + 5. What do you think will show up if I run this?
The text 5 + 5.
5 is going to be shown. So if I do this, I should get this specific text. That is because AutoHotkey is looking at this particular parameter and saying that is text. But sometimes I want the result of 5 + 5. How do I do that? Well, you can what is called force an expression. I'm telling AutoHotkey what I'm going to pass right now is not text. Okay. So for that, you put a % and a space, right? So when you do that, I'm forcing an expression. I'm telling AutoHotkey, okay, whatever is coming now is not simply text. This is actually a mathematical expression. Okay. So now you will get the answer. You're not going to get 5 + 5. Okay. Because I'm actually mathematically doing that. Now, the funny thing about that is how it behaves. Check this out. My var. So I'm going to have a variable that has my name in it. So if it is not an expression and I put my var and I put 5 + 5, what do you think is going to happen?
I have no idea.
Okay. So what is going to happen is that this is text, as you mentioned before. So remember, I'm not forcing an expression in here. So this is text. It's just going to show that. It's just going to say my var 5 + 5, right?
Okay.
That's what happens with it. So when you are within text, to show the contents of a variable, you have to put % signs around it. Okay? So this tells, hey, don't treat this as text. This is a variable. Just look up whatever that contains and show it there. And when I do this, my name is going to show up on the text 5 + 5.
And if you did the percentage.
Now, so see, that's why I wanted to kind of like go with it. When you force an expression, now the % signs are not required. You don't need that because everything is an expression. And within an expression, variables are not text. So now this is not text. If I wanted text, then I have to put quotation marks around it to tell AutoHotkey, hey, treat that as text, because if not, it is going to treat it as a variable instead. So let me stop right there because this is a lot of information and might confuse you more. But I wanted to let you know there's 2 things in AutoHotkey. The normal and version 1, okay, in version 1, the normal text and expressions. And they behave very differently. So you have to be wary. You have to be aware of that. In my example that I did a few minutes ago, I was forcing an expression here. So that means you have to be careful because everything on the right is an expression and variables here, I'm just naming them as themselves, you see, without % signs. That's why. So I wanted to let you know, if you're going to deal with expressions, be careful, because they behave a little bit different than what you might expect.
And the other thing I'm going to add to this, we're not going to, I don't want to go into it because I think this would confuse you, but in version 1, there are commands and then there are functions. And the assumptions in those two are often different, and this is where people get very confused of when do I wrap my variables in percents and when don't I?
Exactly.
But let's not go to
that's a lot of information. The one thing is, keep in mind, there are text and there are expressions, and they behave differently. In my example, for clarity, I forced an expression and said 30 times seconds. And you can understand that really quickly, right? Because it's very easy. 30 times seconds, it's just in 30 seconds. But keep in mind that this is an expression and things might not behave as you expect. And reason why I'm switching to version 2, because we no longer have to force expressions. Everything is an expression, and you don't have to ask yourself, is this an expression? Is this not an expression? I don't have to ask myself that. Everything is the same, so it is consistent all the time. Every time I know this is how it's gonna behave. In AutoHotkey version 1, it's
some of the biggest mistakes. Some of the biggest mistakes I've done is because of this. You think you've done it one way and you've done it another. So I think that's a good thing. You set one standard, there is no ambiguity anymore.
Exactly. That's basically what is happening. But again, then it brings the issue. Expressions behave in a way that is not intuitive to some people. So if everything is an expression, everything is confusing. So you have to be careful with that. It's just about,
you've got to have one standard, otherwise it gets even more confusing.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. That was very edifying. So now in here in line 5, the percentage sign is saying, first of all, calculate this and also treat sec, S-E-C, treat sec as a variable.
As a number. Right.
Go and
exactly.
Get that.
Exactly.
That
so I'm just putting 30 times 1,000. It's basically doing this. And basically, in the end, once it calculates that, it's just telling the function is the same. I'm just doing this. The only thing is that having this, especially when you have hours, is not that easy to follow, because doing this might not indicate really easily that is 1 hour. Doesn't make much sense. So that's the reason why I usually myself make it an expression, is just to make it more readable.
Okay.
And we could definitely just take a look at that, like message box this, and we will see what that is. Let's just remove all that. And you will notice that it is this number. So this, at first glance, is not obvious that is 1 hour. Okay. So if my code has 3,600,000, right? So if my code has this, right. So I'm not missing anything. So if I have that, does that tell you that is 1 hour? No, not at all, right? It's very difficult to, especially if you haven't worked with it. For people who have been working with hours in milliseconds, often it might be quite obvious, but not for you. So my impulse most of the time is making the code obvious, so that next time, 3 months from now, when I read this again, I know what the heck is doing, because I might forget what I was trying to do. So.
Okay. I forget what I wrote an hour ago, let alone 3 months from now.
Exactly. But basically, this is something that might help a lot of people. In general, I rather have expressions. They are in a way that not only are consistent, but they're flexible, because I could put text within an expression and calculations, and that helps me know what I'm doing and clarify stuff. But in version 1, you would have to force expressions in many locations, because they're not by default there. That's what happens.
Okay, great. And last question. You've talked about version 1 and version 2, but a while ago, Joe advised me stay with version 1. That
Yeah.
still applies, right?
Yes, that always applies.
Great.
If you are
Okay.
comfortable and it is easier for you to use version 1, there are reasons to switch to version 2, but they're not really compelling if you're just doing one-liners, two-liners. That doesn't make any difference. Okay.
Right.
It's
I'm
just
like
if you're already used
Scott.
to it.
I'm like Scotty's grandmother here.
No, then just stick to what you know, right? There was somebody saying, "Hey, I'm trying to switch to version 2, but now I have to change all these 30,000 lines code that were in version." Why would you do that? Don't change it. Like, don't do that.
Right. Well, maybe they would do that because they didn't understand that you can just tell the script at the beginning, use
No.
AutoHotkey version 1 to run this.
No,
I think the expression
no.
is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No. So let me jump in because I understood their point. Somebody said, okay, I want to start coding in version 2 because I like all the simplicity or stuff that it brings, but I have to maintain this other script that is version 1, right? And maybe some new things come up in version 2 that I want to apply to my script and I can't. So now, if I have to convert all that code, which is a pain in the ass, let me just, I don't want to do that. So, why did you make it that it broke? Because version 2 breaks compatibility with version 1. Well, I understand that you might want to convert it. Don't convert it. It is an annoyance that you have to live with until you have the time to convert it. When you have the time, then just do it. But in general, no, don't convert your code. New code, I would definitely say, hey, just try it. The new code, try version 2. It's not that different. I was just showing Joe that there was a script that he created in version 1. And when I switched it to version 2, it looked pretty much the same. So.
But could you talk about what Scotty said about you can tell it at the beginning, use version 1, and then you can run version 2?
We will talk about that in 1 second. Let me go ahead and, because I think somebody else had another question. Let's go ahead and grab that before we continue.
Yeah, so Brian was asking about updating an array. For basically taking a new value from a GUI, which I don't know if we want to build that into this, but then updating a value in an array. So we already have an array. There's a value.
Yeah, let's. This is a very simple thing. So my array, if you have an array that has some values in it, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you could.
Why do you change them so they're not the same as their index?
All right, yeah. So let's one, yeah. Let's just do this 2 and 3, right? So we have this. And
how about red, green, and blue? I think it'll be clearer.
Right, red, green.
I don't know. To me, the numbers.
Because the numbers are the indexes
now,
as well.
Here's the
but they're words.
Right. Now, here's the interesting thing. If I message box, and this is the point, Ray, I don't know if he's in there. If you're paying attention, notice this. If I want to see this array number with a message box, I can't, because that is not text. It's just going to show me that. So if I want to see the value, I have to force an expression there to be able to see the value. I don't know if that made sense, right? Now, in this case, notice that the third array is blue, right? So that's what we get here. But if I want to change it, it's as simple as saying array 3. So you have array 3 and you set another value. Now, it looks simple enough, right? So it shows blue first. Now I switch the value and now I have another value. That's exactly what you have to say. So if you have a value from your GUI, let's say that your GUI has a variable in it, and let's say that your variable is called myEdit, which has some text in it, some text. The first thing you have to do is just, so you have your array and you have your GUI. The first thing you have to do is GUI submit, right? So we can get some value into your variable, right? You have a GUI submit, which we don't have a GUI, so I'm not going to execute that code. And then your array, you have to talk about the specific key that you want to change. You're just going to put whatever verb that has in there. And now when you message box my array number 3, you will get the new value. I don't know if that makes sense, but in general, you can replace any array key, the numeric key, with any variable that has some data. In the case of a GUI, you have to do GUI submit so that the variable has something, and then you put that in your array. That's all there is to it. You do not have to make complex changes to the array. That in itself should do it.
And I would say, after functions, learning both arrays and key value paired objects, like for data storage, are one of the best things. You know, I used objects for a long time of just storage, of just understanding, and it makes organizing your code and accessing everything so much easier. It's a huge level up. I think Guy was cheering me there. He was holding it.
Objects are the biggest bane of my life, because I've never learned programming that way, because I come from the old Visual Basic kind of background, and I can see the power in them. But then again, I've written nearly, thousands of lines of code for my huge program, and I didn't use a single object. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to convert it into objects.
No, again, this is one of those that I would say, why would you convert it? Like, you don't have to convert them, but
I'm gagging to do something with objects so I can learn them better.
I'll tell you a little secret. In Jean Lalonde, like the author of QAP, he built QAP without really understanding classes and objects, and then he later on, even though it was painful, went back and he's like, the code maintenance, it's worth, because it makes it so much simpler and organized, it's worth it. But I still, like you said, Guy, hey, if it's working and you're never going to update it, who cares, right? Is it really worth it?
Well, QAP is such a mammoth project with so many variables and possibilities. I mean, just the program itself is a huge database, let alone what it can do. So I can understand that. I've got a simple question. I don't know if you want me to ask it now or in the next.
Yeah, that's fine. You go ahead.
I tried downloading a file using the HTTP object. It didn't work. I tried downloading it with a wget command line, and that works fine. Is there something that I can use that's not a wget that would work the same?
Have you tried URL download to file? That's a command that AutoHotkey. Let me share my screen real quick.
But I'm saying, does that work the same as the HTTP COM object, or is that a different way?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say they are using a COM object now, you said like the COM object didn't work. I think it did. The only thing is that how you can read the file is another question.
Well, I just want to save it. I just want to save it to the drive.
So in your case, right? So in your case, as you do not have much experience with COM objects, and especially when HTTP requests, I wouldn't really recommend it. I wouldn't really recommend it because it is not as simple as just grabbing the text and putting it. I would definitely just go with this command, URL download to file. You give it the URL and the file name. That's it. And it does that. What you're trying to do is doing it on the background for you. And it's going to work.
Now, with HTTP COM object, do you have to close it after you open it?
No, not exactly. No. So you open the URL, you send the request, and then you deal with either the response text. In your case, it would be response body, which is something else.
Yeah.
But after that, you don't have to close or anything. The only thing that you would do is just make the variable blank. That should be it. That actually destroys the COM object.
But so that's what we got to do. We got to destroy the COM object when we finish with it.
That's a good practice. I would recommend you do that. Yes.
Okay. Fine.
Say it depends.
Well, but in general, in whatever he's trying to do, if he's downloading an object, saving it, and that's it. Yes, it is a good practice to go ahead and destroy the object. There are certain situations in which you might reuse the object over and over again.
If you're going to download more files.
Right. Yeah. So
if I'm not, then that's it. it's just an update file.
Right.
Okay, I will try the URL just because, the moment I've got a ship we get with with my program, and I'd rather not have to do that.
Yeah, well, in that case, again, I'm just saying use URL download to file unless you have any problems with it. If you use this command, you don't have to ship anything additional with your program because it does what you want.
Okay, I'll give that a go. And it's got the error handling there. If there's a problem, then
it will tell you.
It'll tell me.
Yep.
Awesome.
5 minutes.
I'm not going to be on the next meeting, guys, because I'm going to have to dash halfway through. So just say thank you again. And for anyone that hasn't joined the Hero program, it has saved my bacon so many times.
I think the times that you say, like, I would have spent 3 hours on that. Like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, or I would have paid someone to do it for me. But, just talking with you, it's done, So go for it, guys. Anyone who's on the fence, do join. Because I'm learning. I learned from last time. One of the other participants piped in with curl, and they said, "Oh, by the way, you can have curl on the computer." And I go, "Really?"
I didn't even know that. Either.
Exactly.
Right, I didn't know that one.
So last question to leave you with is, Heroku are closing down their free servers, and I'm running a bit of NJ code on one of them for my telephony. Does anyone know of a service or server I can run that code on that I can transfer it?
What type of code is that? Is that PHP, JavaScript? What?
And Node JavaScript, NJ?
Oh, Node JavaScript. Yeah. Well, most of the servers right now, if you have a site host, like a website host where you host your site, they might allow you to just have a Node.js server in there, and they would run your code.
It's called Plesk, and I have access to it, but they don't have the program Node. The server program.
You would have to install it. So if you have Plesk, that means that you might be able to connect to your server via SSH. I don't know if you have ever done that.
Yes. Yeah. Or FTP.
Right. If you enter, FTP is one thing. SSH is another one.
Yeah. No, I've got a panel. I've got a file manager. I've got everything. Right. I just need to find the NJ server. Where'd I get that from?
Well, you have to enter into the server using a SSH, which is a secure shell. And in the shell, if it is a Linux shell, just look for in Google, install Node.js Linux, for example. And they will tell, it's just one command. Just like np install Node.js, and it would download it for you and put it. So you just have to you have to actually enter into your server using a secure shell. And from there, you go ahead and install Node.js using
so the secure shell is not my Plesk user entry where I see on my websites.
In your website, in your the host that is giving you the Plex, they might have just look for their name and put SSH, and they will tell you how to do that.
Okay, not a problem. I will make that.
If that doesn't work for you, Amazon Web Services will be able to get you a server up and running that'll do that. I guarantee it.
Exactly. And this is part of this group. You can fire a random question. People go, "Oh yeah, I'm doing that all the time. I'll send you the link." And you go, "Duh. Thank you very much."
A valid point in the sense too of the Hero group. We don't always just talk about AutoHotkey, right?
No, right.
We're helping each other solve problems, and sometimes we ask for help. I say this too. We're like, because the world's a crazy place, right? So,
right. What was your question?
Code. It's for today only for half off to join the Hero Club. If you're again, there's people at all levels. Ray, who it looks like he's not in the Zoom meeting anymore, but he's in the group.
He is there. He's asking.
Sorry, Ray, you're out on the beach.
He's like, he's trying to make a question.
It's all levels. So we appreciate you guys joining there, and thanks. We'll see you next week. Sorry,
hold on, Joe. Hold on. Joe, he wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I'm in the Heroes Club. To get into the next hour, is it the same link?
It's the normal Zoom link.
The normal link, yes.
Like that I got in here.
No, not this one. Not this one.
Because it's not a live stream. No, it's a different one. Go look at your emails.
Look at my emails.
We'll go to the Telegram group, and there's a link there as well.
Right, exactly. Cool.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Thanks all for joining. Hope to see you next week.
Bye.